Are we? I saw a red light on L.
Okay. Trustees, if you had a chance to look over the agenda, everything's good? Yes. All right, excellent. We'll move on to general public comment. Is there any in-person public comment? Anything online, Candace?
We do not have any hands raised online, so no public comment.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the best part. Principal Riceburg, if you want to tell us all of the fine features of Jefferson Elementary.
Yes, we'd love to. We'd love to. It's my first time on the brochure format. So excited about that. But we'd just like to welcome and online as well all members of the board. My first year at Jefferson was the first time I was able to present to some of you who were there at that time. But really just looking forward to today because what is in this brochure and that I'll be talking about today is just thinking of all things Jefferson. And if I'm thinking in my head all things Jefferson, there are a lot of really cool things that are happening. And really cool things to highlight within this building and the community today. So excited that you're here and that this work session is taking place here at Jefferson today. If we look at our first page, thinking the Jefferson mission, I'm not going to read through it. You can read through that, but I do want to highlight just on that piece, kind of in the middle, we talk into just the community. And I want to highlight a couple of points with our Jefferson community, really from our staff to our families to our students. And it's been super apparent this year as well, just that we here at Jefferson are so lucky. And I think a big piece of that is our community support. The families, Jefferson families really are aligned in our vision and our mission of having those high expectations. And I truly believe, right, it's had the biggest effect on student growth and achievement. That homeschool relationship has to be aligned in their mission and their goals. And that's something that I wanted to speak to you all today, that we're just so lucky and grateful at Jefferson that we have. Example this year, we have some new leadership on our Jefferson Parent Council, and it's been lovely. The support that they push for, and it's really all student focused, and it shows with the fundraiser that we ran at the beginning of the year, just everybody coming together, right? There is music, and we want a new sound system so students can hear instruction better within there, or a play kitchen in kindergarten. We've got a new Kinder Sprouts here this year, and that's lovely, but furnishing that room with a calm down area, anything like that, but really we're able to achieve all of that and provide those opportunities and experiences for the students because of our community and the families. So it just gives us to a good starting point where we have our staff and our students and our families aligned and holding everyone to those high expectations and really at the end of the day possibly affecting student growth throughout the years. If we look to our engagement pieces, I'll talk within the building, a couple points to highlight, and then we'll talk a little more deeply into our community engagement. But thinking over the last 2 years, Jefferson, and this kind of aligns with the district as a whole, but working with multi-tier system of supports, MTSS, and like our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, with academic and behavior. But I did want to highlight a few things on engagement that are tier 1 and really related to like our behavior system. And specifically with tier 1, like our positive behavior system. So that being weekly PAX winners. What we do is our reward system is students here at Jefferson can earn we call them PAX and that's if they're taught by a staff member, following our Jefferson expectation, being safe, being respectful, being responsible, and then they bring that down to my office, and we have grade level tugs. So every Friday, and Mrs. Seelback was here today, stocks our book vending machine with lovely novels that the students are really working hard, and they love being called, or getting their PAX called to go down on Friday and get a book for being the PAX winner of the month. So that's just one piece of that. Also along with that, we started this year having monthly PAX leader assemblies. So just another positive support in our reward system, and that's where we have our PAX Leader of the Month. So it's an extension onto, we celebrate students as a whole school weekly, but we added this piece as a step up to really get those kiddos that are always doing their job at all times, because some of those kiddos can get missed. So we come down in here and celebrate a monthly PAX winner for each classroom, and that's been a highlight as well. We also have literacy nights here at Jefferson. We run 3. This year we're going to run 4. We just had the read dogs here in the building. And this year's been super successful. I know some of the standard, we do makerspace literacy night at the beginning of the year. Our book exchange is coming up. This year we did the read dogs where I'll highlight Mrs. Putnam and Mrs. Seelback again. They help lead those, but we have some 5th grade leaders where they were the readers for our younger kiddos that came to that night. And that was just a success and a new one here at Jefferson. Outside of school, I'll just highlight again our parent involvement and our community support. Our parent council runs a few events as well. Our Halloween carnival is super big. And then coming up at the end of the year, our art show. We'll talk a little bit into that. So basically, our art show is a display of student art. This year it'll be pre-kinder or kinder sprout to 5th grade. And so our hallways will be lined with different mediums of art. Kindergarten's doing clay. This year we're going to send 2nd and 3rd grade to the Archie grade, and there are some pieces over there. I partnered with HIA on an Indian Alliance for 4th and 5th grade. So Rachel from the Indian Alliance is going to come over here and do some wood Mustangs. And then we'll display that and invite families in and have an auction. And the goal of that is to provide those different art experiences to our students. So any money raised will then go the next year in providing one of those opportunities. I'll skip through some of those. Do you want to talk into our SLT teams? So this year we have academic school leadership team, behavior school leadership team, and Gary, it's actually on that last page. Yeah. And just wanted to highlight a few pieces of those. So I kind of talked into it with our multi-tiered systems of supports, but for our behavior focus this year, really dialing in our tier 1 systems, and that's our expectations, and really making sure we're speaking the same language across the school, our reward system, that ties into our PAX list. But beyond that, what we were noticing were some repeated, smaller, tier 1, maybe getting into tier 2 behaviors. What are we going to do about that? So within our school leadership team, this year our focus on our behavior days is really using our data. So we have our minor referral data tracker, and that can be in the classroom or out at the playground, and staff fill that in, so it could be, right, the student using that leverage, or whatever the behavior may be, and tracking that, and then really adjusting through that. So we've highlighted a few themes this year. What we just started last week was using we're getting fifth grade mentors is what we're currently calling them. So in kindergarten first, one of the things that the behavior or our data is showing us outside, we're having most of our issues, and those behaviors are energetic boys that are getting a little bit too handsy and rough. So now we have currently 5 fifth grade boys that are mentors. So I trained them, kind of like a little job application, went through, here's what we're looking for, here's your job, and they're out every day at first recess attached to some of those younger kiddos that were getting those behavior referrals outside, and they're getting coached and just a team aspect, and they love it. And I can tell you that haven't heard any of those names at first recess. So it's been lovely. But that's just one example of our focus for our behavior SLT. Academic, we're lucky, very lucky. We get to work here at Jefferson with Ashley Baresh, and she supports as a coach and is within the building on Thursdays. So one of the big things we did this year is adjusted our walkthrough tool. So another piece to collect data within the classrooms and just make decisions right from there, whether it's going to be PD or is there an area we need to work on. So Ashley's been supporting us with that. One of our themes that she just read professional development with our staff on was opportunities to respond, so kind of focus on engagement. And then another one, thinking into the future, and the Jefferson staff has also noted this as well in future meeting, is writing. And that's where at grade level meetings coming up in April is going to be a big focus. That I foresee here at Jefferson, really using Ashley and her expertise coming back and continuing into next year in a writing focus. I think, Gary, that's all I'll say on that page. If we move into looking at some data. Our SLT teams too, also, that's where we create on the blue page, that's our goals, or our action plan for the year. I believe on here, I put in our growth goals, so you'll see for reading and math, they're similar. Looking at our average data, kind of broke them into 2 parts, and I'll speak first just what there are, and then kind of the work that actually is helping us with as well. So our reading and math growth goals are looking at our iReady data, 80% of our student population reaching their growth goal, which is the data point that iReady gives us based on where we started. Here's where we want to be. Here's where we're thinking about it that way. So by the end of the year, we want to see 80% of Jefferson students getting that goal. Beyond that, and what we discussed in our SLT this year was at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of strategic kiddos in the yellow. We had a big chunk in there, and we want to move them to benchmark, wanted to get them to green. So partnered with Ashley at the beginning of the year, what we looked at was, and iReady's nice as well too, because based on their starting scale score, we can look at if they reach their growth goal, they're going to be benchmarked at the end of the year, or if they reach their stretch goal, they'll be at the benchmark or in green at the end of the year. So we looked at that and dove into all of our students scoring strategic or at yellow, and looked deeper at, okay, if they met their growth goal, they're going to be benchmarked at the end of the year. Then we also looked at if they meet their stretch growth goal, they'll be benchmarked at the end of the year. And so Ashley got all that data, and then we were able to talk as a staff, really highlight and make some goals for those students and hone in on those yellows, because we can move them to benchmark. So that was our focus, and that's part of our goal as well. So looking through that and kind kind of what we've done so far this year before I jump into the actual data. Ran through our fall benchmark, classroom set, classroom goals that were really targeted at moving those yellows to benchmark. We did a reflect after our winter benchmark. Some goals were hit, some goals were adjusted, and some goals stayed the same with the same view of moving those targeted yellows to green at the end of the year. So that's kind of the path we're on right now in reading and math. And a brief explanation of our action plans and goals. Looking at our data, so within the brochure, this is at the top we have, that's iReady data. So that is from spring of last year. And I'll talk through in comparison with where we're at. But I think a great highlight, if we're looking at the ELA, we ended the year, this is proficiency, so 80% we ended last year in reading, 80% of students were proficient. I spoke earlier to our goal and our growth goal, so that's lovely, right? And I think it's, like, I'm proud to say that. In reading, 80% of our students scored proficient. Look deeper and focus on growth. With that data, we ended the year, 72% of students met their growth goal. And our goal this year is that 80% of students will meet their growth goal. If we look at math, again, super proud to show that. Students did a lovely job. This is proficiency graph right here. 72% of students were proficient in math last year, and then 67% met their growth goal. So this year, where we're at, we're proficiency-wise, after winter benchmarking, we're kind of tracking similar to where we were last year in regards to mid-year proficiency and where we're at now. Currently, after winter benchmarking, 70% of our students scored proficient in reading already in December, and then 43% of them had already met their growth goal. So now we're taking the next few months to, we really want 80% of our students to reach their growth goal. Math, winter, tracking again, similar to last year, where we were at 56% of students scored proficient already in December, and then 35% met their growth goal. I'm sure we'll have questions. I would welcome any questions data related before I get into attendance and behavior. If any members of the board have action plan, school goal, or data questions.
Is it correct that you didn't have any students in the red in that?
That would be correct, yeah.
Wow. So I think it's great that you're focusing on your goal on growth. It's extra challenging to move kids in the green to their growth goal sometimes when you don't have students, you're right to the goal for the other time. So I think that's great.
And that's a constant just discussion point because it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of resources are used to do exactly what I was saying, by moving those yellows and those reds. But I fully agree with you. And yeah, those conversations are happening. But it's a constant. It's a hard feat to accomplish.
Yeah.
I will say though, in that we do, there's some red currently. Sure. This year.
Any other questions, Christian? You go. Thank you.
Okay, I'll hit on attendance. Would like to highlight that as well. This year, and this is a work in progress. We started, my counselor and myself, running attendance meetings, so checking in on attendance. As you can see, we're sitting, just under 95% attendance rate, which is lovely. But we did start checking attendance every other week. Still in the starting phase of that, what that's going to look like. But thinking forward into next year, really we'll have a benchmark, missed days, whether that's 5 in quarter 1, and then what's going to happen from that. Currently, we're making phone calls home and doing that route, and then really thinking of attendance support plan. I haven't ran an attendance support plan at this point, but we have that set up. So really gearing towards the supportive aspect to increase attendance. But that's lovely currently. Behavior data, so this is what I was speaking to earlier, just on our referral form, our data tracker, and I know that's very small. I will highlight though, no, I misspoke. This was taken from our student needs screener data. So in K-5, there's some surveys that we run through related to catch internalizing, externalizing behaviors within our kiddos. So teachers, K-5, fill out a rating scale, and then students, 3-5, fill out one for themselves. So that's this data. And based off of this, then we can think into, right, if a student flags yellow or red, that's going to be an entrance into like a tier 2 behavior support. Some of the things we do here at Jefferson, check in, check out. Our counselor in our school site runs small social emotional groups, maybe a behavior contract, something along those lines. But our data's looking lovely, and it's looking huge growth from last year as well. But I mean, really think of like an MTSS triangle. Our data shows just that. We're looking at internalizing, externalizing. Both of those are right around 80% in green, so our tier 1 kiddos that are going to hit with our expectations and our paths and all of that. And then 10 to 15% are tier 2, or the yellow. And that's where we'll see kiddos entering into small social emotional groups, have a couple students that are in a behavior contract, or check in, check out, and then lower percentage. I think all those say we're under 5% in the red, but that would be our tier 3 kiddos, which would be behavior intervention plan specific to that child to support. I think that kind of summarizes the behavior. Questions on attendance or behavior? And then the last piece, kind of more informational. I won't speak to and read through the different pieces in there, such as freedom boost and our class list. I would just like to highlight, we added a Kinder Sprout classroom this year. Miss Meredith and Miss Teresa is there in there. They're doing lovely. I think it was an amazing addition to Jefferson, and they're going to be, I mean, they're right now, they're ready to really care. So I would just highlight that as well.
Were they ready when they got here?
If I will say, they were great.
I'll put you on the spot.
But, no.
Yeah, that's,
You should see them.
you're right, yeah.
You walk in there and
Pretty special.
4 or 5-year-olds that are sitting on the carpet, and granted, it's not going to be for an extended period. No, they're good.
This is a procedural question. If you start at pre-K at Jefferson, then do you go into the Jefferson kindergarten program, or do they go to a home school?
Yes, so Jefferson is probably different than some others, but so currently in our Kinder Sprout, we have 18 students. 16 of those 18 are within our boundaries, so they would be Jefferson students based on home address. So they'll be coming here. If they are not in our school boundary, so it's outside of our area, they will be going to their home school, whatever that may be. But just like any other student, they have the opportunity to put in district transfer Those will be granted by Kenya. So we'll discuss those in June. Is it happening?
Thanks. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, talking to the teaching and learning about some of the intervention programs that are using, what are you using for English, for ELA, for intervention?
Yeah, so that, like a specific intervention or like a small group? Yeah, so Ashley again, I keep saying her name, but one of the big ones specifically for like K1, UFly. So we got a ton of them. We have all of the teacher manuals and all of those supplies. And I'd say that's probably the biggest one. UFly within small groups, but really, thinking into like K1, Wing Group, and UFly is used. But they're working on all sorts of things. And then that will just vary throughout. This year is the last year for I Read My Path, so that's being used. For a lot of small group or one will also support.
Any other comments? Questions? Anyone online, any trustees online, did you have a question for Bryce? It's okay if the answer is no.
It might be easy, looking at the screen. Do we just listen?
It's connected, it's just not on the screen.
Okay.
I mean, this is just extraordinary. I mean, the performance of Jefferson, not only as an institution, but just as a special place in families' lives and kids' lives is awesome. I mean, it's well known and it's well earned, and I appreciate everything that you and your staff do, and all your teachers and children and teachers are here. It's just an extraordinary place, so thank you and keep it up. And it's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done, Bryce. But maybe you're going to get your staff to get up and say a few words.
What's that?
They were holding their breath back there.
They're lovely humans. No, they're lovely to have them all.
Well done.
No, I would never know.
All right,
You can just sit and take the praise. You don't have to say, you're doing an awesome job.
Agreed.
All right, well, thank you very much. I guess we'll move on to new business, consent action items. Is there a motion for the consent action items?
I'll move approval of the consent action items.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on the motion?
There's none.
Thank you. Is there any board comment on the motion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 6-0. All right, items for action. First up, MOU for the lease of Hawthorne Elementary to establish the Hawthorne Community Center. This is exciting stuff.
We could just make Mr. Zero famous right now. Go back to the presentation. Super proud of
Oh,
Jefferson,
sorry.
and that's okay.
Did I skip over you? I didn't mean to.
I was just going to come here a little time. And I really like the packet, or the pamphlets that we're utilizing right now.
Yeah.
But these 58-year-old guys are really struggling on the data. Wow. But it's impressive where Jefferson's at, and where they continue to maintain work academically, and also what they do for students around social and emotional needs. Really impressive, so we're proud of the work that they're doing. All right, so on the agenda, we have an approval, or before you, I'm asking for your approval for a MOU that, let's go back in time just a little. We went up for interest, literally the district's ability to do a survey for our community through The correct means is an RFP and RFI, if you will. At times you've seen a request for information, but this is a proposal on 2 different facilities. Obviously, we've talked a lot about this, but I just want to highlight it and how we got to this point. Both the May Butler Center and Hawthorne were up for, we felt like we needed to move on. I don't want those buildings to sit vacant and empty. And so what does it look like for our community, and how does that purposely or intentionally have impact for our community? So we put out RFPs. In that process, we received one in the timely manner, in any manner, is we received one for Hawthorne. In normal circumstances, it didn't quite fit everything that we were looking for, revenue sources and timelines and committees, and but the intent of what it could be was exactly what I had hoped, or we as a district would like to see in the neighborhood as well. What you'll see is a proposal from the Hawthorne community, and it is actually Mr. Schmidt that lives across from Hawthorne. I met with him over right before winter break or during winter break and asked about the purpose, and he wanted to know the process. He submitted an application and it was fine. And then we worked through our legal counsel, and Mr. Barrow and I, as it being one, we explored the option, do we want to move forward with this? And the answer was unanimously, the 2 of us, yes, we do want to move forward, and we want to move it forward to you. And really the signals and what is excited about it is a community center located at Hawthorne Elementary. But there's some roadblocks or obstacles that we need to get over. Our legal team had a series of questions, and then we brought back in Mr. Schmidt and his team to work with our legal counsel about how to answer those questions and move forward. And what you see before you is, after that meeting with council and Friends of Hawthorne, or the community center proposal, is an MOU that was drafted by Megan or Caliber Law. And in it, it's a short duration, but what they need from us is an approval to move forward in a short window of time so they can stand up a nonprofit. They need to be able to show investors that we are on board. It'd be really difficult for Bob and his team to go out to investors and say, we need money, but the school board may or may not be in it. So we really need to be able to say, yes, we're in it, we're committed to this endeavor. And then they also need to then establish a committee. None of that was, literally it's the chicken and egg, what has to come first. And I would say that we have to step forward and say that we are willing not to sell the property out from underneath them, not to rent the property out from underneath them, and let them have time to build this, this movement. And in it, I'm willing to support utilities and things that we need to just keep the building warm and safe and dry while they get moving through that. And consequently, it does help us because we still have some items in there that are stored and we need to move out. So that gives Mr. Barrow time to move forward. But if you look at the MO before you, it is a community center. There's levels of development within it. So they'll start a little smaller and then it'll get bigger as they get more revenue, more committee members around it, and some more interest. And so it is a nonprofit. It is by individuals in the Hawthorne community. Again, I said we're not going to sell or release the property out from underneath them. It is not a joint venture from the school district, and I think that's important, not at this time. If you look at the deadline or the term on this, number 3, July 31, 2026, we're going to revisit. We feel like that's several months to get established, and let's revisit. I don't want to extend it out years in an effort to stand it up. So let's find out where we're at at the end of July, and then we would be more than willing to extend this out further if they feel comfortable moving forward. That's something that they need to, as a committee, figure out as well. And so that's where I'm at. That's where I am going to propose to you to sign this MOU. It's just an understanding that we want to move forward and help develop this community center in Hawthorne Elementary. So I would ask that you would approve as submitted. And I believe Bob is going to be here this evening, but I think work took him away from town. And I thought we had Rachel.
We do online and Marshall.
Okay, so we had
legal counsel.
Legal counsel's on as well. So we do have Megan online, and we also have 3 members from Hawthorne. Marshall and Rachel. You recall Rachel was a former trustee and interested in this building as well. So I would just ask are there any questions from our trustees that I or legal and or the community center personnel can answer?
I would just like to hear a little bit more about the vision, like what are some of the things that they would expect to, that you would expect to, you know, be housed or kind of located there. Just a little bit more about that.
They should be able to unmute when they're ready.
So I would ask, I don't know, is Bob on?
No.
Okay, so Rachel or Marshall, if you're comfortable with that, if I don't hear from you in 10, I will answer that myself.
She unmuted.
Rachel, unmuted, great.
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So Bob had submitted the proposal, and I have a screenshot here to tell me some ideas that he had involved in that. Marshall, you can jump in if you need to, but he envisioned childcare programs, after-school programs, teen center, meetings by the hour, adult education programs, music studio, a tool library, art space, craft space, learning labs, playground, possibly food service, vigilante parade, float construction maybe, robotics, modeling labs, those are ideas he had in his proposal.
And as we worked through this here a couple of weeks ago, they fully recognize that this is going to be, it'll escalate and get a couple and move a couple further. Bob was particularly excited about a tool shed, a tool library where people can rent or just check out equipment in that area. So there's a lot there. I think that Trustee Hawthorne has a question or a comment, and then I might just ask Megan to summarize it at the end.
Go ahead, Trustee Adler.
Thank you. My coverage is a bit sketchy, so hopefully you can hear me. Hey, it sounds like a great idea. I still live in the neighborhood, and I see a lot of the Hawthorne community already, celebrating out in the Blacktop area. And so I just think it's a great use for the building. Just from a facilities perspective, as the facilities chair, and I know this is a next step down the road, but as we move forward, we want to really think about the term of the lease and how binding that is. We just had the 7th Avenue gym, which we were expecting, I believe, for 30 years, and it ended. So just kind of throwing that out in front, that we really look at the legalities of the term, and that we're confident that that we can maintain that from both sides.
Thank you for that, Trustee.
Oh yeah, I just have kind of a follow-up question with that. What would it look like in terms of, or is there any deferred maintenance that we would be responsible for taking care of before we would lease?
Yeah, so we have some experience in this realm. Not many districts get into the leasing of properties, but it's happening in the AA's. I know Missoula's doing it, that Megan can talk to about. But we also did it with Ray Bjork, and we've done it with 7th Ave gym that was just referenced. And potentially people are starting to hear about 7th Ave and may want to know a little bit more about that. I think Todd has fielded a couple of phone calls around what some other people are interested in. But to your point is that we build into those contracts and those lease agreements real specific language around what we're responsible versus what tenants are responsible for. And that is important. In the fact that it's an aging building, we know the deferred maintenance is high on that, and so I think both parties or both agencies are certainly keenly aware of what that was going to look like. We talked about that in our last meeting, and potentially revenue donors would help offset some of that deferred maintenance. But we want to be good stewards, but we also know that our general fund, as you'll see later, is a point where we can't just go out and fix major boilers on buildings that we're not occupying. So we'll work through that understanding of who's responsible and who's not, and that will come before you as a board, and it will always run through legal counsel before we get it to your level. Okay, Megan, would you like to, I think it's probably a good segue from your office, just briefly talk a little bit about what those leases look like and then what your expectations might look like for us entering into a longer lease agreement.
So first of all, I just want to mention that as far as use, one of the things that was prohibited by the RFP is that this couldn't be a competing school. So it may have programming for children, but it is not intended to be a school facility, which I do think is important. As far as how these leases work, I really think, you know, I've done plenty of them. I think everyone is going to depend on the circumstance. Certainly, Trustee Hathorn raised a good point, which is there should be thoughtfulness put towards the term. One of the things that we've already discussed with the group we met with was that we may want to look at sort of early out language in the lease, because one of the things is the financial viability of this new organization. And so we don't want the property committed if as much as, you know, we all hope that it's a successful venture, if on the off chance it's not bound up in a lease. I certainly have in my brain to work on language at the time of the lease to provide some sort of, you know, out language that if they can't sort of take on the financial responsibilities, that can be an area where the lease would terminate. We haven't really gotten into term. As a lawyer, I want to look at shorter term leases because I don't want to commit the district to long-term projects, but every single project sort of has to be taken on its unique circumstances. And so sometimes long-term leases do make sense. But you know, this one might be very incremental. This one might be fairly short term at first to see how things go. And then if it's a success, we could look at different options. So, you know, the leases certainly cover maintenance responsibilities. We do want to cover termination if there's certain things that happen. For one, I don't know, you know, what happens if there's another terrible windstorm, right? I know a lot of school buildings sustain damages throughout the state because of the windstorms. And so, you know, we're thinking long term of like, what if things happen? Insurance, that's a big piece. We're going to want to make sure we cover how they can use the property. So there may be things coming before you that for activities that, you know, if they're doing fundraisers, their use of a technically school building may look a little different than what a school fundraiser would allow. So it's intended to cover a wide variety of things. Improvements to the property, usually because this is district property, we'll want to make sure all improvements are run by the district to make sure you approve them. So they're not going to be able to do anything to the building without you signing off on it. So as far as where we go, again, we were asked to come up with an MOU to show the district's commitment to this project so that they can actually take the actions to form the nonprofit and then look at then entering into lease negotiations. So that would be the next step is if this board approves this MOU, we would then wait for the formation of the nonprofit and then at that point start moving into negotiations.
Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you. Just so I get a square in my head, what we're signing tonight would be kind of us committing to them for a short term, just a couple of months. Yeah, we're not going to lease this out from under you. You have some time to get your ducks in a row, form your organization, see if this thing is a go. And if it's a go, there'll be next steps. But for now, it's just kind of preserving the opportunity for there to be a next step.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I would like to add also this, we talked about it's a short term for us, and it is for them. I want it, and as we go into building and negotiate something further, we protect our interests, but I also want to make sure that their interests are protected as well, that they're not locked into a long-term lease that they have no interest in being in. So really, this has been super easy to work with Bob, Rachel, and Stuart in this process so far. They want what's best. We both have aligned goals and needs for this, and so it's been a really easy work so far. But I do think it's important that we have an out and they have an out. Whatever one needs it can exercise that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from any trustee here or other of you guys online? All right. So I would entertain a motion if we've got all our questions answered.
I would move that we approve the MOU for use of the Hawthorne Elementary School to establish the Hawthorne Community Center as outlined.
Thank you. Is there a second? And just for, is there any public comment on the motion?
There's none.
Is there any in-person comment on the motion? And just to clarify, can Trustee Walsh vote on this or no?
Elementary is no.
So, all right, so the vote will be, it's 5 of us. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Chairman Key, we just had 2 hands raised, Sean and Janet.
All right. Trustee Hathorn, go first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for squishing me in right before the vote. Hey, I brought up the term lease, which I know we didn't quite get right at the 7th Avenue gym, and I think that's important that we get all the documentation done really well. But I just wanted to clarify that I'm really excited for this project. I think it's a super appropriate use. That school community and that neighborhood uses that area, and I'm just very much in favor of this project from a general perspective.
Thank you. Trustee Armstrong? We're having trouble hearing you, Trustee.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now don't move. And go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to thank the group, Bob and Rachel and everyone for doing the work. I know it's a lot of work. I know people were upset, but I appreciate that they took all the time to put something together. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anything else from anyone else? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Appreciate that. Thank you. We'll need to sign that. And we'll get
Okay, right here. I'll get that on mine.
All right. You might have a clean copy here, or I can send it to you.
All right, number 2, approval of resolution of intent to increase our non-voted levies.
All right, so first of all, 2 things. One, I want to compliment Sam, again, in a quick learning curve, has done really well. I got an email from an internal district office personnel yesterday saying that how thorough the language and how thorough the documents that she had put together. We have been working a lot with Mike Waterman and Bozeman, and I think she has some contacts that she's been working with, but highly intelligent, quick learner. I really compliment Sam and the efforts that she's made up to this point. So, how do you live without people, with people that you've relied on for a long time? You move forward, and that's what we're doing tonight. And so here we go. I also want to mention that we have a lot of information coming at us, and typically, I don't like putting these in work sessions because it looks like we're trying not to be transparent, but there's just a lot coming at us with, and every board meeting cannot always be those informational and non-work. I think sometimes we just have to put information and decisions in front of us and move forward because we don't have time in many instances right now to wait for the next board meeting. Now, that's kind of the slowness of school districts, right? Is that you have to do them once a month and it's like turning around a battleship or aircraft carriers. We're not doing that. We've got to be a little bit quicker and nimble. So that's why it's before you. I also couch that around the fact that we haven't not talked about technology levies and general operation levies. This has been something that we've had on our plate for quite a while. I know that Gary has presented several times during budget and finance, and so the needs for that. So it is not new, although it's typically I'd like to get these out in the monthlies, but this is where we're at tonight. So this is where we're at. You have two resolutions or two approvals before you. One will start in the elementary district and the high school district. Remember from years past is that we have non-voted or permissive levies that we signal. We need to notice these up by the end of the month, and so there is the piece that we need to get this done this evening. That notice means on our websites, in the paper, other places that we traditionally put that out for the public. I think that was 2013 or 2015 legislation that said that that's how that needs to be noticed. These numbers are, I didn't calculate all of the yearly and monthly because these just signal that this is what we anticipate. Remember, we're not done with our budget yet. And so the way that these roll out, we have to anticipate what we think it's going to be, and then with the understanding that it could change as we move forward and through the budget cycle. So what I'm asking for tonight, what we're asking for tonight is in the non-permissive elementary funds, transportation, tuition, adult ed, and building reserve. Those non-voted permissive levies, we anticipate an increase. You see transportation, and we work with our transportation director. He has some concerns. If you paid for a gallon of diesel lately, that is an alarming, and I drive one. And so, fuel costs that we've asked him to make sure, we don't know what that looks like, but in anticipation, what does it look like in your world around fuel costs? What does tires look like because it's petroleum based? We're unsure. And so we've added a 4% on that. So what you'll see in the elementary and the high school transportation at this point is a 4% increase over where we were last year. And those numbers reflect that. So that's what I've asked for tonight. Tuition is gone up, but because legislation of last has a tuition fund that we pay for our students that go to other districts. This is a pass-through because other districts didn't have to come back to us, and it all lands back into the tuition fund. So this will be a move of pay for our students that leave, and then we receive monies that come back in. But this is what we anticipate our exit, and then it should offset with the number of students coming back into the district. So that's why you see that. You see in adult ed, we contract. I'll just signal that at some point I've been talking about changing this system, but right now we contract with Helena College. They do a lot of our adult ed programming, and then also our 21-year-old. And so this money here is about 2.5% increase in what we see operational costs from last year. So that's about a 2.5% increase. And so that's what you'll see on that one. And then the building reserve is part of we have a building reserve levy that we voted in. Then we have a non-permissive section in that. At one point, we had a $300,000 levy that we had in the state batched whatever we had. So what you just simply see there is just a small increase of what we can ask for in that internal building reserve safety security piece to both the elementary and the high school. So before you see a $797,149 increase. It's 5.67 mils, and I'd ask that you approve that tonight with the understanding that this is just our estimate, and we will come back once we come to August when we have our full budget picture. Did I explain that well enough? Okay. Sam, did you have anything else? Okay.
I have a question. Is it okay if I ask a question on that?
Absolutely.
So the tuition permissive levy, am I correct that we can increase that if we have a disproportionate cost as well? That we can utilize the tuition permissive levy to cover disproportionate special education?
We can. And also remember, we can use that for one-on-one aid. And so if we have a special needs student that has a paraeducator, that's a one-on-one, that's the language, and we can use that to offset the general fund salary. We can use the tuition fund to do that as well.
So are we anticipating having many increase in our 18 to 22-year-old students that we're serving?
We went through this, I believe, in teaching and learning, maybe our last board meeting. Ms. Carter has projected, and I'm going to phone a friend here in a minute because my audience knows this better than I. I think we went from 2 or 3 to 4 to 6 to maybe 7 or 8 in year 3 and 4.
Okay.
Am I close?
Next year, not a lot more. The year after, we're going to see a big increase.
Yeah.
Okay. So we could utilize that in the future.
Yeah, and in legislation sessions coming up, and this is a resolution I think that we as a board need to come up with on how that's funded.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that, I'm sorry, before. That would come out of the high school then to serve those 18 to 22? So high school?
Yes, it would have to come out of the high school district.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because there might be one exception there, but yeah, it would be predominant high school.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Hepburn, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify Superintendent Welch's statement that they're working on a resolution through the legislature to work on that extending the high school out. Is that, have an MTSBA board meeting coming up. I'd be happy to bring that forward. I'm not sure what the resolution group sort of includes. If you could clarify that, please.
Yeah, that's a great question. And Jenny, you may want to add in a little bit. This is, I'm not saying that there is one, I'm saying that we need one. Is that we need to build a resolution around how we're funding that new law out of tuition fund and into the future. And so I know that we're going to bring the AA superintendents, business managers, assistant subs together this summer and talk about funding priorities. And that will then generate the conversation with our trustees to build a resolution that would be submitted to the School Board Association. So there's not one in right now. We need to develop it and then coordinate that with the state if possible, and so that we can submit it as a collective unit. Agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm happy to do the work on the MTSBA in any way that would benefit our school district. So just let me know.
All right, appreciate that.
Any other questions? I didn't have a question, but just 2 comments for the benefit of everybody here. I totally appreciate you explaining why this is coming in front of a work session and not a regular meeting, but our work sessions are regular meetings, they're notice public meetings, and work gets done in both of them, and it's not, we call it a work session, that's just our vocabulary term, it's not a different kind of notice public school board meeting. Just to clarify on that, and it bums me out to raise, like everyone's paying more for gas, and it bums me out to have to do that. There's people who are already paying more for their own gas, but if we don't, it's going to come out of the classroom. Like there's no other place for it to come from. So I don't like doing this, but I also know that if we don't, these wonderful no kids even in the red in math won't stay that way because we'll be spending money on gasoline instead of spending money on teaching, and I don't like that either. So that's where I stand personally.
Appreciate that.
All right. If there's no other comments and no other questions, I would entertain a motion on, and we're going to break it up into 2. The approval of the resolution to the intent to increase our non-voted levies in the elementary district.
I move that we approve the resolution of intent to increase non-voted levies in the elementary district as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on the motion? None? Any further board comment on the motion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Wait. Those opposed signify by saying no. Okay, motion does pass 5-0. All right, third verse, same as the first.
Okay, so we're in similar waters here, except now we're in the high school district. You'll notice, I think what's most important that you'll see in the mill increase is about 0.57. It's a really minimal increase in mills. That translates to an 86, almost $87,000 increase, based on the same formula, 4%, 2.5%, and then those numbers that we presented to the within the elementary district. And so I'd ask that you approve similar to the elementary district as the high school district as submitted before you. I agree, Trustee McKee, that no one wants to be in this boat, but we also know that districts this is the mechanism in which we run schools, and so we didn't set the rules; we were just playing by the rules. And so this is how we have to move forward to make sure that we have appropriate education services for all kids.
Questions, ma'am? Yes, Tristan.
Sam, am I correct that we could ask for quite a bit more than we are asking?
Yes.
This is a
This
concern.
just kind of keeps the door open.
Right.
Thank you.
We track a 15, 20-year mill history, and we see what those fluctuations look like. Now, they're also generated or affected by property values, and so you need less mills when property goes up. So we know that, but we keep a real mindful eye of how many mills that we're asking for, and not blowing those extraordinary out of the water.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for the approval of resolution.
Any online ones, sorry, I didn't know if Siobhan and or Janet had a question.
There was
There were
no
none.
answers, correct.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know you.
No worries. I entertain a motion. Seeing no other questions.
I will move that we approve the resolution of intent to increase non-voting levies for the high school district.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, get on that. Is there any public comment on the motion?
None?
Thank you. Is there any board comment on the motion? Anybody online? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Opposed? No? All right, motion passes 6-0 this time. And moving on to approval of the elementary ballot language for a general fund operational levy.
So our operational levy, back in the familiar waters of old, you see this often. It's the mechanism in which the state of Montana, we were able to have a really great conversation with a superintendent out of Washington, and they don't have the same mechanism as us. And that mechanism I'm referring to is that what you see before you is when the state grants at 3% or 2.5%, we get 80% of that, and then we have to go out for the operational levy to get the remaining 20%. That doesn't happen in other places, and though we feel like we like it all, other states are like, well, that works pretty well for you. So it's all perspective. Tonight you'll see before you the elementary. Similar, as I said, the waters that we were in like last year, we could not run a high school general operational levy because our numbers offset the increase, and so it was a wash. So we're not able, again, as you'll see, we're not asking for a high school general operational levy. We're just in the elementary. Within the elementary, you'll see that it's substantial. So that 20% or what we're asking above base is nearly $900,000. We are in the middle of setting our budgets. We are in the middle of conversations around what our budgets look like. But this is the first step, or second step, if you will, for us to know what our numbers look like so that we can put operations around the budget. And so, but we need to know the budget. And so this is what we would ask, that we go out in May and for the operational levy. We've had good success. Helen of the community has always supported this operational levy very well over the years. And so we thank them for that. We don't take it lightly, but that in reference, remember in the high school and the elementary, our general fund in the elementary is at a higher need, if you will, than our high school. And so it's appropriate that we go out and seek this money for our operations of what we do for kids and students and staff. So I ask that you submit, or that you approve the approval of the general operational levy for the elementary school as you see before you.
Thank you. Any Questions?
Gary, do you want, and I do have one more piece, we'll answer questions and see if there's anyone that has, if no questions, then I'll point to the board.
Just, I want to clarify, to make sure I understand school funding. So we get paid per kid, and the legislature gives us 80% of what they think it's going to cost, and we have to ask for the rest,
That
right?
is correct.
So they know this, what they give us is not enough to actually educate kids. If we're not constantly out here asking our public for money, then we just fall behind.
Yeah, I don't know the intent of the language in which it was crafted. I don't know what they were thinking when they said 80-20. I am positive there was a good reason for that. Not all districts want their money. Right? We don't know.
Right, and I'm not asking you to assign intent, but just like.
I don't know.
I know no
but-
one could possibly know these
Well,
things.
you're right. You're right, Trustee McKee, is that there was some interest and some energy, if you recall, in the last session. Pardon me, I had to stand up. I get too long, I get stiff. So there was some energy in discussions around the last session and bills crafted around full allotment. You're not asking for that 80-20, that 20%. Again, I think as Trustee Hepburn is listening and Montana School Board Association, we should probably dust that idea back off again, because I think that there's a lot of cumbersomeness of asking when you think you're getting 3, but you're only getting 2 or 80% of that, and our taxpayers don't understand that. It's confusing. So just the cost of doing business would be nice to be able to have that cleaned up with you. If legislators say they want 2.7, then it should be 2.7.
Yeah.
And not go back out to the tax rate.
Yeah.
And then not only that, we got to do it on both districts, right? It's not one blanket for the entire district, it's both districts, we have to apply that.
Right.
If we were able to.
But we're just out here begging for money all the time, because that's how school funding is actually designed to work in
We're not.
Montana.
We're not.
I mean, not just us, every district. I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it's just like, it feels like we're always asking.
It's
Because
just-
it's designed for us to be always asking. If we
It's-
don't, we just cut into the classroom.
We're not unique. Every other district is
Yeah.
going through the same process.
Sure.
We're working with 10 different districts, and they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're maybe a little ahead of us, and they're certainly trying to scramble in to get it done this week. But that's what every district does. It's just how we do business. And we don't think that, we think this is abnormal because it's only us and we don't know what's going around us. But everyone else is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Everywhere. I'll draw your attention, you don't have this in the packet, but here's what we're asking for: approval for the elementary general fund levy. It's 6.79 mils. It's, we are thankful for it. It's 953,618. If you look at, as you look at the 100, remember, for those that are listening, we are required by law to do a $1, $3, and $600,000 house, right? That's what ballot language, that all has to be part of our literature and information. So this ask on, and there's no such thing as a $100,000 house. I completely understand that. We're probably in between that $300,000 and $600,000 house on the assessed value, not appraisal value. Big difference. So on assessed value, we're looking somewhere between 3 and 6. But on the year, on 100,000, it's $5 a year. On a $300,000 house, it's $15 a year for this ask, 15 and a half. And then a $600,000 is 33 per month. That's 43 cents, $1.29, and $2.76 a month. That's, I think, was important. I think Trustee Armstrong, with the budget chair, wanted to see what that was on a monthly and an annually or a yearly rate. So that's what this ask looks like. Just as a point of reference. Okay, increasing. Okay, with that, I would ask that you approve the recommendation for you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right. I would entertain a motion for the elementary ballot language for the general fund operational levy.
Chair McKee? Yeah. Trustee Armstrong just raised her hand.
Oh, Trustee Armstrong, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Superintendent, I just want to thank you. You've given some really clear explanations tonight, and I appreciate you laying it out in an easily understandable fashion for not only us, but the general public. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee.
Anyone else?
Not at this moment.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion?
I move the approval of elementary ballot language for the general fund operations levy as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on the motion? Is there any board comment on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
I think that was delayed, should we verify?
Trustee Hathaway, did you mean to vote yes in favor of the motion?
Correct. My vote was aye.
And those opposed? No? All right, motion passes 5-0. Now go to Chloe.
All right. Where to start? So with the technology levy, again, not unfamiliar that this was on our radar. In fact, legislation had changed where we needed to signal this, I think it was 120 days out, or it used to be 70 to 90, right? So we had to push this out. At the same time, you had to submit for trustee positions. And so that was at the same time we had talked about if we were even thinking about it, let's signal that we can always pull it back off. And so now we're back into the position where like, we have been with our team, looking at budgets, knowing where our numbers potentially could fall, knowing the impact of what technology, the need for technology, we'll talk about that at more depth here soon, is that with the passage of our facilities, right, I want to be real clear about this, is that I'm hearing it. I talk to our community. I have my feelers out. I mean, what if? You know, I do the due diligence around. Does this make sense? Does it not? Is it palatable at this point? And it's mixed reviews. But what the mixed review for me internally is that we haven't communicated or educated what the need looks like. The terminology itself is confusing with what's going on a national stage, screen time and cell phones. And so we really want to make sure that we differentiate the need versus what the worries, the scares, and the anxieties are around technology. So that's what I'm set out to do tonight. Anticipating an approval, if that's where we end up tonight, then we have a lot of work to do with our public. And then soliciting. And I didn't shy away from this when we were looking at a major bond. Like I didn't say, well, we probably should because I'm not sure if it's going to work. It's not how I operate. We need to be able to provide for our students and our staff, and this is the one step forward, and I'll explain why. With the facilities and the bond, that didn't fix technology operational costs. The facilities. With bond language and what we can do with facilities money and bond funds is not an offset to the desire, the need that we have around technology. So we're going to push. We're going to spread this information around. What is it not? All right. What's not in the levy? And in it, it's not more devices, which I'm hearing. Like we're going to buy more. It's not more devices. It is not more screen time. It's not more cell phones or cell phone access, and it's certainly not more unrestricted AI. Right? Those are 4 components that I hear that with this technology levy, we're going to have more screen time, more computers in students' hands. We're going to allow access, and we're going to have what it is. asking is that we are pulling nearly $3 million out of our interlocal or for the technology that we failed safety, security, and technology levy. This is a less of an ask than we had last time when we ran it a year ago. So 27 in the elementary.
Correct, 27%.
27% less in the elementary, 5% in the high school. Right? We're asking for less. We're also not going out for safety and security. We've heard our public that it was too much. We've dialed it down. To the point where, as Gary has put his budget together for the next 5 to 8 years, we still think we'll have to pull $500,000 to $800,000 out of our general fund just to maintain our technology needs, because we don't want to ask over what we think we can rightfully ask our taxpayers. So we're still under even what we think we need, but this is our ask. So we are alleviating the $3 million out of our general fund. I think it's important to talk about what it is. First of all, we titled this the Elementary Operation Infrastructure Operations and Licensing Levy, because just when we say it's technology, it sounds like more screens, but I want to make sure we talk about it's the operations, it's the infrastructure that we need, and it's the ever yearly licensings of every piece of equipment that we have that we didn't have when I bought my Performer 475 from Sears and Roebuck. You bought it? Did you have one too? That thing came, and you put the disc in, and you dropped your license, your software in it, and you never worried about it. Now, that switch up there on the ceiling, that's a router, and that one has, that's $1,200, and that takes a license. And there's 600 of those in our district. That takes a license, and the switch behind it takes licenses, and the computer takes a license every year. We pay for that. We've never had that. When we had our first technology levy in 2006, that did not exist. So the need has exploded in terms of what we have to pay for versus what we had at one time. So this is what it is. It's to continue our operations with all of our hardware. It's to provide academic resources. It's to support student and teacher engagement. It allows parents and students to purchase school meals and other day-to-day needs, our white fees and whatever else it is. That technology makes it accessible for our parents to access our district. It keeps student information secure. It keeps communication viable, our school newsletters, our parent calls and emails that come in and ones we send out. It is also around it's communicating during emergencies. If we don't have it, we can't let parents know what's going on, and they can't reach back to us. That's part of the technology. That's not a new cell phone, and it's not a new computer. It's the ability to communicate, and that's what this operation does. And also, as I said earlier, it prepares students for the world after high school. That's important for us, that we just can't quit doing it and say go be great citizens because they don't know how to use it, right? Again, we changed this title to an Operation Infrastructure and Licensing. I hope that helps our public know that we're not buying more computers, that we're buying, or that we're paying for the required licensing and operations that it takes. So in this is what I'm asking for. So the long-winded way to get to the elementary submission. So we're asking for approval for 11.39 mils. It's a $1.6 million increase. And here's what it looks like. On 100,000, again, I apologize, it's on 136, we don't have 100,000. I do like the $100,000 because it's a multiplier. So if you know your assessed value, take that times 100,000, that's your number. But 136, on a $100,000 house, it's $8.66 a year annually. $300,000 house is $25.97 a year. And on a $600,000 house, it's a $55.47. Monthly, that breaks out to 72 cents. $2.16 a month and $4.62 a month. So we're not required on the monthly, but I just want to make sure that we can get a perspective of what that looks like. So what I'm asking for is that the intent is to offset the general fund need, especially in our elementary. That is where we have them. That's where we combo classes. We have reduced staff. We have done a lot to reduce our $6 million deficit in the last 4 or 5 years. This is a step in that direction that we can afford to alleviate some burden to the general fund so we don't have to have it affect the classroom like we've had. This is good for kids. So I'd ask questions?
Yes, this is not something that I take lightly. I think we've asked the Hellman community to be generous many times recently, and I'm so grateful that we passed those bonds. But I think that the fact that we and so many districts across the state have to ask for general fund levy and these other specific buckets of funding relations outside the school funding mechanisms across the state. In my professional capacity, we're supporting school districts as small as E-bond earning an operational levy, all the way up to many of the facilities. And we just can't function without running an operational levy and these other specific buckets of funding anymore. And I feel frustrated that we have to continue to pass it up to our local taxpayer, but I think that we really don't have a choice. Additionally, this is really an unfunded mandate from the state in terms of the testing that we are required to do, and the extent that it requires the use of our technology. I mean, especially since we've been asked to have constantly in-state testing mode now, our devices are taking up, especially at the elementary level, just with that, and we have to be able to replace those areas of our choice. We have to be able to do that for state testing, and we don't get money from the state to do that. And so that's just another frustration. And then I think one clarification when I get questions from the public is the buckets of funding question. We just asked for a bond. Why are we asking for more? The bond is something we can only use for the school facilities and for what specifically is in the bond's language. The general funds levy is only going to go to the general fund, and this is going to go to its own bucket that we can only use for this specific purpose. And I know that that's confusing, and I wish that it wasn't as confusing, but that's where we're at, and I hope that as trustees we can educate the public on the need, and I'm always happy to do my school funding 101 talk or presentation.
And it's a great point, Trustee. We put it in perspective is that we know that we're $3 million, and Gary has, I went conservative, I think he mentioned even up to 4. But if we need $3 million a year to keep our infrastructure licensing current, I remind you we have $6 million in our local. Our savings account is 6, so you can see that that's a $2 million, no, that's 2 years, and then we wiped out our interlocal, which is also part of our bond ratings, and so we don't have a revenue source just at our disposal unless the state does something different. We don't hold our breath, and we're not going to wait for them to change that because we know how long it takes to change funding at the state level. So this is again. See what's going up and down the bid rate. I see what the AA's are doing. I know where others are. We're all doing very similar in our own communities. And I do not take this lightly either. This is about 8,000 kids and 1,000 employees. Is really what this is about.
And also, Hathaway, thank you.
Trustee Armstrong, why don't you go ahead? Thank you.
Was that me, Chair McKee? Trustee Hathorn?
Go ahead, Trustee Armstrong.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've cut out a little bit, so if I'm repetitive, my apologies up front.
Getting reconnected. Let's go on to Trustee Hathorn.
This is Trustee Hathorn. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we are connected.
try this and see if we can get it. Try that again. Will you try that again, Trustee Hathorn? See if we can get you up here. She's muted again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but from a different.
Okay. I couldn't hear all of. I couldn't hear all of Trustee Butcher's comments, but I just wanted to make the point that when this practice came into being, it actually made a lot of sense because technology was new and it was additional. And it's just obsolete. I'm assuming that this will also be a resolution that we'd like to push through because, as you have all stated, these are not optional expenses any longer.
I agree, Trustee, that this is, again, as we kind of work our way through these tonight, it's certainly, I think, a roadmap for our conversations this late spring, early summer.
Great, thank you.
So just to, two piggybacks here. One on just being appreciative of the community,
Yes.
how generous they've been and sensitive to asking yet again for some more support. And so gesturing towards, or just acknowledging that this formula just puts us in a position. Then to echo what Trustee Hathorn just said, this is just part of teaching and learning now. And it's made even more so by testing that being afterwards by the state. So I just also want to reiterate and emphasize that it's not just sort of doing what we need to do to support teaching and learning in technology, with technology, to the extent that we do, but it's just to highlight that $3 million that we are needing currently to take out of our general fund to support that. Just to say loud and clear again, if we can restore that to the general fund, then that really helps us to support the teaching and learning that many of us who remain sort of skeptical or concerned about the limit of the use of technology. Well, that $3 million helps to support all those other things that right now we're having to divert towards our technology. That makes sense. So I just really think that's important as we talk, especially to our public, that understanding, it's out there, it's not adding, it's actually sort of adding back the things that we really have had to sacrifice because we've had to support technology. So just wanted to make that point.
And some of the work that I referenced earlier that we need to do with our public is that work around cell phones, that there's this misunderstanding with our public that cell phones are available and open in our district. In every elementary is off and away. Both middle schools are off and away. That's their core codes. That's what they believe. That's what they are practicing. Our alternative school is off and away. Our universals we just learned at Capitol is every teacher has the authority of how they want to manage their cell phones. That is also going to take place at Helena High. So we have two schools that we're talking about out of our district that are still in a learning phase. As we said, we take technology and we tell them to get rid of all their cell phones. They really don't learn how to use them when they leave our premise. So we're now looking at a geofence that we've talked about a little as just another tool to help our two high schools navigate what it looks like for their teachers, and that has autonomy for each building and for each staff member. So we're working through that. So I want to dispel the myth that cell phones are everywhere. But I also want to make sure that we are also battling technology around what accessibility looks like in watches and gizmos and rings, right? And so there's a lot of things that are happening. So we're not going to just bang it. I think that we heard from our public that it's on both sides, and that we're going to find that middle ground. We also heard that AI is everywhere. We're just allowing AI to happen. AI is not accessible for students on our servers in schools, and so we have that shut down or blocked for the most part. We have staff members that are using it. We learned today in a conference when we were in Nashville that AI is a great tool, and I don't think that we eliminate it, but we have to learn how to use it. And so AI, as I heard from our public, that we can't just shut it down because it's rampant. That's not true. We actually have practices right now where those are shut down. And so we have parameters around our cell phones and our technology and AI. It's not that we don't know how to use it or not managing it. We are. I don't think people understand that. I heard say, well, I can't vote for technology because you just let everything else go. That's not what's happening. So I want to be real careful. And we know that we're going to start that information series as soon as we get done tonight. With the facilities, but we're willing to do that work because it's the right work for our kids.
Thank you.
Yep.
I want to go ahead and just add some stuff in here, and I know this might specifically be elementary, but I think it transcends. So I'm just going to put my comments in here so we don't drag out the next vote. But I think it is so super important, and we've all done a really good job about trying to highlight what this does cover. Because as we're having these conversations, I kind of got to thinking about what other things are included in this. And when we're talking about programs that are used, CTE isn't usually something that's thought of with like technology or computers, but it is, right? We were talking about 3D printing, we're talking about CAD programs, designing programs, photography for editing and stuff. And all of these things have to get paid from something.
Good point.
So it's more than just thinking about it being within a classroom and a whiteboard or smartboard and trying to get through. As we were talking about the geofencing, right? Is that a cost that could possibly come out of these funds?
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's something else. We have communities concerned about how much cell phone is being used, whether it's being pulled out during class time or not, the social media aspect of what that does with mental health. And that would be a resource that we could use to at least help contain that, not to speak to it being restricted or any of that conversation today. But this is something that could support the movement that our community is, expressing concern in with us certainly, and I'm sure with other groups as well. It also things like library resources. Our libraries have physical books in them, and yet we're still having to utilize the technology to support that. We're talking about, and then as you mentioned, the future, right? We can't just make statements to say, why don't we? Why don't we go back to textbooks? Why don't we do other physical type things? Why do we not do that anymore? Well, we want to have a competitive workforce for our students. It does start in elementary school, learning how to use these tools and these softwares and this technology stuff. Certainly it moves into high school with some of the examples that I provided. And then when they go out and graduate from our high school and they go out into whether it's a university or work or all of the other many options that are available out there, every single one of those touch on technology somewhere. And we can't just send our kids out restricting everything that we have here to then say, okay, go be a functional adult out in the world and have no idea how to do things, how to manage things. And then lastly, we had talked about this before too, that some of these expenses are just expenses we have in our own personal lives. Paying for internet, paying for Microsoft 360, paying for Netflix, right? All of that stuff is just a part of your budget and it's all tech. And so we have very similar expenses for that too, that we're hoping to cover with this. So we do appreciate you guys listening and hearing our voices and concerns, and to also let you know that we are listening to you as well.
Trustee Walsh, I'm going to take our minutes and I'm going to take that and make that our next. I'm going to use AI to build that. But I think what's really important also is that there's an expectation from our community upon me and our team to make sure our students are safe. And you cannot touch safety without having a technology piece. Our cameras, our fobs, infrastructure, our communications, our panic buttons, how I'm going to get a hold of law enforcement, ambulances, all that is technology. And it was never intended for the general fund. It's really a technology need. So all that coupled with the most important thing we have at our disposal is to make sure our students and staff are safe. So with that, if there's no other questions, I'd ask that you approve the elementary K-8 as submitted.
Trustee Armstrong, get her, she has a question. Okay, Trustee Armstrong, go ahead.
Thank you. Can anyone tell me if you just took out of what we've just approved to put forward for the other levies, if you had a $300,000 house, how much have we already said yes to that would cost annually? And then if we added this on, what would the total extra cost be? Can anyone get that?
I have that in a slide that you'll be able to see if you have the, before you. If we get through this one and the, high school technology, I can give you a total. Right. Here we can run that to, let's run. Yeah. So what I have, I will tell you the two technologies collectively. Is that where we're at here?
That's where we're at. Technology say.
I recharge these glasses. So the combined K-12 tech you see before you. So with the high school and elementary, almost 17 mils, 2.4, on 100, 300, 600,000, that's yearly and monthly. So your monthly, or your yearly is $82 on a 600,000. I can break on our next, I left the 400 and that kind of seems to be the sweet spot, but I don't want to confuse everybody with a lot of numbers. These are the ones that, but I can run a 400 and that gets us closer to the assessed average value of our district. But you can see it's somewhere between 321 and 686 a month, or $38.56 versus $82.36. Mr. Armstrong, we will then lay that with the elementary general fund, and I can have that total for you by the end of this conversation.
Okay, thank you. It's just kind of, as we're doing them individually, it's just kind of helpful to have the big picture in mind, given the rising costs and everything and the concerns that we're all expressing for not only the district, but just for households. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Armstrong. Any other questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of the ballot language for the technology levy in the elementary district.
I will move that we approve ballot language for Operation Infrastructure and Licensing Technology Fund levy as presented here for the elementary.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Is there any public comment on the motion? No. Is there any board comment? I actually do have a comment. Is there any online that I'm going to jump in front of anybody online? And I really appreciate the conversation about where this money is going to go and the huge thankfulness we all have towards the community of Helena in supporting our bond just, just this year. But to me, I think the biggest thing that's not understood is not where technology money gets spent, but it's just how education is paid for, period. But it's a combination of property taxes and income taxes. And when property taxes go up, it doesn't change how much money comes back into your local community. So property taxes were allowed to go way up with the price of property values in Montana. Legislature did not wind down the value of a mill, which is a percentage of the value of your home. And what that ended up doing is that we all paid way more in property taxes. And the school funding formula combines the income taxes and the property taxes together, but it didn't change how much you get back because it is built as a formula. That formula hasn't changed since 2005. So when your property taxes went way up, all that really meant was it just required less income taxes to equal the amount that we've been getting since 2005 with little nibbles and knobs along the way. And so the last two legislative sessions, you would say, oh my gosh, we're swimming in money. We've got a record surplus. Yeah, that was this. That was your property taxes backfilling an income tax cut to someone who probably didn't need it as much as we need $3 million to pay for our Microsoft license. Like, that's what's going on here. We can talk about whether or not this should be an operational, this should be built into the whole thing writ large and so on and so forth. But the bigger problem is that we spent 40% more in this district on property taxes for the schools. And we actually got 4% less back. Like, we are spending more and we are getting less. And the formula is fundamentally flawed. And it's terrible that we have to ask people who are already paying more for property taxes and then more for our, more for their fuel and everything else. They're paying more for everything. We absolutely should not be going back to them and asking to cover the licenses of security systems that we need to keep their kids safe. But that is the way things are funded in Montana, that we are letting, this is my view, we are raising taxes on everybody to finance an income tax cut that primarily benefits the absolute richest people in the state. And I think it's just totally unfair and unjust. I am going to vote in favor of this, but I totally get why this burns every single person who's going to have this ballot in front of them. Any other comments?
Well said.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Right, motion passes 5-0. And we've got the companion levy for the high school.
Way of saying it. Yeah, so before you see the slide above you, to your right, is again, same premise, same work that trustee Walsh had talked about, is what the needs. And so I just wanted to make sure you saw the yearly and then the monthly, of course. So in the high school, it's 5.5 mils, it's 850,000 divided throughout our tax base. And then you'll see that it's 420 on 100,000, 1259, and then 2689 for 35 cents, $1 a nickel, and $2.24 a month. And so we know that ranges are somewhere in between that, and we'll try to flesh out that 425 number. But you can see it's going to be between $1 and $2 where most people will land just for the high school. And then we will have a combined, trustee Armstrong had just asked for, the team to my left just built a slide that will have everything put together. So I would, if there's no questions, I'd ask that for approval, but we are looking for questions.
Any questions? I got an answer last time.
Yeah.
All right, any questions online? All right, I would entertain a motion for the Helena High School approval ballot language for the technology levy. That's the high school district, not just Helena High.
Chair, I approve, thank you. I'm reading right off. Okay. So I move approval of the ballot language of operations, infrastructure, and licensing technically fund levy for our Helena High School District.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second. Got a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on the motion? I'm sorry, there's a second. Yes. Is there any board comment? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 6-0. Are there any board or superintendent comments? Yeah.
So I'm going to circle back to Janet's question. So thank you, Sam and Gary, for putting this together. So as you see before, and I think that those online can see this as well. Yeah. But this is fair, right? We'll put together, and we'll start putting this out for general information after tonight's notes. So if you look at the all voted funds, these are the active levies and then the permissive levies. What we have is all this is on an annual, and this is our monthly cost on 100, 300, and 600,000. Follow the structure here, like we've had in the past. We have with all permissive levies, all voted levies. So this is going to be on a $600,000 house, $145 a year. Right, Sam? Yeah. And we built it. And
Everything that we talked about.
everything we talked about. And it looks like it's going to be $12.15 for everything on a $600,000 house. It, For a $300,000 house, it looks like it's gonna be about $5.69 for all things that he has asked that we approved tonight. So it's somewhere between, that 450 range is gonna be between 5.5 and 12. So somewhere right in there. Well, or on a yearly in between these numbers here. Just get your frame of reference, and then we will make sure that this is easily understood so that we can submit it to our media, and so it's in our communications plan. So it makes more sense. Yes.
Any other board comments?
I think that for, as you all have related to it, this is a tough ask. It really is. Do I wish that we could just say, it's not really needed? Absolutely. I'd be really happy just to say that we got enough and we're gonna go forward. That's not my responsibility. It's not your charge to me to make sure that we can do what we need to do for kids. And so this comes with an understanding that this is a big ask, but our community has always supported our students. And this isn't because it would be nice to have. This is how we have to run our district. And it's, if we don't, then we're going to have to be faced with some really tough decisions around what we're going to not offer students in the classroom. It comes down to that simple logic, is that if we don't, then this team is going to figure out what we're not going to do. This technology is not about new screens and more screen time. Quite frankly, it's less. We've reduced our one-on-one. We don't have that at our disposal. We don't have a one-to-one device. So this is just to keep things running in our district, period. I think that's really important to understand. Thank you for your support tonight and believing in what we do for kids.
Thank you. Any other comments? I appreciate that, Superintendent Wells, and I think we all know that this decision was made in this building, but when you go outside, you're going to see the Capitol building, and that's where the solution comes from. We can't solve it in this elementary school basement. All we can do is just go back to the same property taxpayers who are overburdened by decisions that are well beyond all of our control.
Yeah, I could go for hours, and I look at the clock. There's two frames in which I operate right now. It's one that we've got to make and see what I can do to help make change at the legislative level. But that doesn't influence the decisions that I make today.
Exactly.
Right? The decisions that I make today have got to be for what we need today, because I can't work this district on hopes and prayers.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is what this district needs. And we'll put all our energy into that. And then when the time comes, we'll put all our energy into that capital when it's time. But right today, it's about what we have to do for our students in this community today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I think we're adjourned.
Good work up there. Thank you.